Hello, 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 and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, takeover news, transfer news show. Finally, we have news to get into. There is actually news, things happening among the takeover, the announcement. It's done. The Glazers losing control. Olise, Neto, Branthwaite, Lenny Euro, Dan Ashworth. We finally got news, people. So hit the like button. We've got lots to get into today's show. And we'll be covering it all. We'll get right into the news in a second. But I have to say, I feel like the players we've been linked to so far under Ineos is a good sign, but I'm still taking it all with a pinch of salt because it's early days. And we just really don't know for sure. I think there's lots of positive things happening around Manchester United, happening at the club at the moment, which I'm really, really happy about. And hopefully we can get the results going. We can catch Villa, we can catch Spurs, we can maybe end the season in the top four, which will help us in the transfer window. And we will have a discussion about that. But I am going to share my screen. I am going to get the news up on screen because that's the most important thing. And we have got some interesting breaking updates on Dan Ashworth as well that I want to get into. But we'll get into the breaking news. We'll get into the major takeover announcement, which is that the Premier League has ratified Ratcliffe's deal. Then we'll talk about sort of the Ashworth, and then we'll talk about the transfer. So as you can see on my screen, it has been said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has received approval from the Premier League to buy 25% of Manchester United. The deal will be completed in the coming days after final validation from the FA. And in the Premier League statement, it said Sir Jim Ratcliffe's acquisition of 25% of Manchester United FC and further investment of $300 million in the club has been approved by the Premier League board following the completion of their owners and directors test. The board agreed to change the club's ownership structure last week, and this has now officially been ratified by an independent oversight panel. The Premier League Owners Charter has signed this. This is the first acquisition of control to be reviewed and approved by a new independent oversight panel following changes which were agreed by the Premier League clubs in March 2023. The Premier League now awaits confirmation of transaction. But Bosh, what does this mean? Basically means Ratcliffe's 25% stake has been agreed. Now business can start. Now things can happen. But also the further investment of 300 million has also been confirmed. That's something that should be pointed out. 300 million investment in the club also been confirmed, which basically means that Ratcliffe will be putting his money forward. And I believe because of that investment, we actually have a bit more leeway with FFP in the summer, believedly. Now, I don't know if that's true, but with FFP, you can only go into a minus 15 spend. But apparently United, not that we will, could go into a minus £90 million spend because of Ratcliffe's FFP investment. Don't know if that's true, don't know what the insight is on that. But that has also been something that's been heavily reported. But I want to dive into the info. I want to dive into all the news and information going about as well. We will talk about Neto. Neto is very good, but he's like injury prone. He's more injury prone than Olise. Neto's more direct. Olise is more creative. Both wingers I'm a big fan of, and we will talk about that. But we've got some updates coming in more in regards of Dan Ashworth. Now, Alex Crook, who's a good source from TalkSport, one of the few people on TalkSport that isn't full of talk shite, actually went on the MUFC MPB YouTube channel and gave some insight on Dan Ashworth to Manchester United and what the latest on that is. And this is what he had to say, as you can see on the screen. He said that Manchester United is stepping up their pursuit of Dan Ashworth for the sporting director role. He said Dan Ashworth has a long-standing relationship with Sir Dave Brailsford and is also admired by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. If they can get him out of Newcastle, I would make him the favourite for the sporting director role. Does Dan Ashworth want to leave Newcastle? I think people at St James's Park would probably say no, but I've heard potentially he could be looking for a new challenge. So this is the latest on Dan Ashworth to Manchester United. Dan Ashworth's in a situation where he's only just really arrived at Newcastle. They're the richest club in the world, and it's probably the most promising project in the world. I personally, being at Newcastle right now under the Saudi ownership, under the promise of the project, the richest club in the world, I think when you're in that position, you don't need to leave because Newcastle will probably be Premier League title challengers within the next 2 to 3 years. I think they'll be right at the top with Manchester City. Manchester United should be there, but we don't know if we will be because of just Glazer ownership. Ratcliffe is here, positive signs. I've been impressed with what Ratcliffe's done so far, but actions speak louder than words. Where United do what they need to do to be at the top and compete with these clubs. So you look at Dan Ashworth and you think, well, you're at Newcastle, you could be the head of the project to make them the next Manchester City, or you take a risk and go to United where you might be given less control, where the club you turned down 2 years ago because you didn't want to work with Merton and the Glazers that's a risk. I think if Dan Ashworth jumps ship and leaves Newcastle for Man United, I think that's massive. I think that's a massive statement. The reason I think that's massive is because Dan Ashworth wouldn't come to United if he didn't think he was going to have control. The fact that we signed Omar Barada from the City group, someone that Manchester City rates so highly, is a big statement. And I think for him to leave City and maybe Dan Ashworth to leave Newcastle, the richest clubs in the world, to work at United must mean that they know they're going to get control. They know they're going to be able to make a change. And Dan Ashworth would be my first choice contender. But part of me thinks this is a very difficult deal to do. He might not be able to come in for at least a year. Maybe Ineos wants someone that will start in the summer. There's stuff to do this summer. There's a big clear out. Does he need to leave Newcastle? No. Does he want to leave Newcastle? Probably not. Could he be tempted by Manchester United? Absolutely. I think that is the situation with Dan Ashworth. I think for me, he is incredible. I think Dan Ashworth is absolutely brilliant. I think what he did at West Brom, how he got their wage bill down, how he brought in hidden gems, and West Brom were consecutively in the Premier League for the longest period, having back-to-back proper mid-table finishes. He went to England. He rechanged and reformed the culture at England, which was brilliant stuff. We also saw Dan Ashworth go to Brighton. He was the reason Brighton are so sustainable. He is the main reason Brighton are where they are now. He goes to Brighton. He establishes the way that Brighton are going to play. He gets the players to do that with help of others. He brings in Graham Potter to coach that way, and then they know that they've got the right players in the right system. So when Graham Potter leaves, they know that they can just get De Zerbi to work with that squad because they've had this set play and this set Brighton vision while becoming the most sustainable club in the Premier League, buying players for about 5 million and selling them to Chelsea for about 100 million a couple of years on. And then he's gone to Newcastle, and people got to remember when Dan Ashworth joined Newcastle, they were smack relegation zone, got a January window that got them to 12th, brought Eddie Howe in, which a lot of people were saying, oh, Newcastle could do better with all their money. Within a year and a half of being at Newcastle, he got them in the Champions League. Yes, Newcastle don't look like they're going to finish in the Champions League this season, but Newcastle massively overachieved last year. Absolutely. They went from 20th to Champions League in 18 months. You know, you'd expect that they would have gone from 20th to 12th to 8th to 6th to 4th. No, they went 20th to 4th. And I think that he's absolutely incredible. I think he would be amazing at Manchester United. I think he would be my first choice. Michael Edwards would be second choice. But I just don't think he would leave Newcastle for United because there's a lot more security at Newcastle. And I think it'll be difficult. I think maybe the reason that everything's been so quiet and news around the director of football has been so quiet in regards to Manchester United, in regards to Manchester United director of football, is maybe behind the scenes, Man United are massively pushing for Dan Ashworth. Maybe Man United are knocking on the door, pushing, doing what they can to get Dan Ashworth behind the scenes. And that would be absolutely brilliant. And maybe the reason there's delay and it's very quiet is because this is a very difficult deal to do. Newcastle don't want to get rid. Dan Ashworth, you know, he's comfortable at Newcastle. He's not super bothered about leaving, but United are promising things. I think what will happen is we'll get some real indication about director of football, about Dan Ashworth, probably in the next week or two. I think it could be someone that we've not been linked to. It could be an absolute shock. I got inside information that had nothing to do with Dan Ashworth, but it was to say take it with a pinch of salt. We spoke about Lee Congerton and some info that I had heard, and Christian Freund, who was formerly at Bayern Munich, and some info I had heard on those two potentially coming to United. But Dan Ashworth, Michael Edwards would be the first two choices as well. I just saw someone saying that Roy Keane is a bad footballer online. What? I mean, look, I was quite young when Roy Keane was playing, but all you need is a brain to figure out, no, Roy Keane was quite a good footballer. Why are people chatting on Twitter about Roy Keane being overrated? You know what? This is really off topic because I do want to get into the transfer news. I do want to get into some more takeover news ahead of Dan Ashworth. But yeah, let me get into this comment quickly. No one envisioned Omar as our new CEO. The same surprised will meet with director of football. 100%. Like, to be honest, this is what I'm kind of hoping. I don't think Dan Ashworth will leave Newcastle for United. So I'm hoping we get that surprise. But I'm just going on Twitter and there's like loads of just crap going about. People calling Roy Keane overrated and carried by Man United and carried by Fergie. What is it about people when Man U was so good, Man U was so successful, we ruined their childhood, that they now try and make out that Gary Neville wasn't a top 5 right back, that Vidic was overrated and carried by Ferdinand. They're trying to make out that Roy Keane wasn't that good. I mean, what a load of nonsense. What a load of nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Why do people try and slam the Man United players that won about 10 Premier League titles in the Champions League? They can't be bad players. I think people are just jealous. So much hate about United online is crazy. Big up everybody in the chat though. Do hit those like buttons. Do subscribe down below if you're new. We do want to get into some transfer news. We do want to get into some other info as well. I also have video ideas coming up for the channel, which I don't know how they'll go down, but like more analysis type videos. So video on Harry Amas and why Harry Amas could be good for United. Videos on like sort of young players coming through and how they could help the team. Videos on maybe like how, you know, Deleu's new role has affected the team, this and that, Man United youth. So do let me know if you'd ever be interested in those kind of videos on the channel as well. But let's dive into the next story, which is going in more on the transfer side of things. And of course, do hit the like button, do subscribe down below if you're new. It will be much appreciated. I'm doing well today. We got everybody in the chat. People criticizing Keane probably never saw him play. They probably play FIFA, saw he doesn't have as much pace as this player, and assumed because this player's FIFA card's better that he was probably better than Keane. You know, there's this Vieira, Roy Keane debate. And I remember watching a video of people debating who was better, Keane or Vieira, and they were saying, "Well, but Vieira's card's better on FIFA, so he must be better." I was actually a debate. It was ridiculous. The people that base their football opinions off FIFA ratings. I mean, FIFA know nothing. Continuing on, what has been said in regards to transfers? So in the transfer regards, it said that Manchester United and Tottenham are making the most concerted effort to sign Jared Branthwaite at this stage. Chelsea, Arsenal and Real Madrid have all inquired about. So Jared Branthwaite, if you don't know, where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? Jared Branthwaite has been linked to United for a while. He's British. Ineos have this plan of a British core. He's been very good at Everton this season, 21 years of old. Last season, he was at PSV, very, very good in the Eredivisie, very, very good for England under-21s in those international competitions. Come back to Everton this season, been immense at the back. I think he's been arguably the best player this season. He's very two-footed. He's a very good box defender. He's going to have liabilities. He's raw. But I think in terms of a profile that has what we don't have in Martinez, he's got everything that we don't have in Martinez in terms of the physicality, in terms of the box defender. But he's also someone that can play left centre-back, which it seems that Martinez is our only left centre-back. On the ball wise, I think if you want someone that's going to completely mirror Alessandro Martinez, we should go for Ignacio left centre back. But Branthwaite could be our right centre back that partners Martinez, but also our cover for Martinez at left centre back. I do think we need 2 centre back signings, and I think Branthwaite, the fact that he's been linked to United, Tottenham, Real Madrid, all these top clubs, just show what a top player he is. You've got to remember that Manchester City signed John Stones from Everton as a young player, and John Stones, obviously he's injury prone, but he became arguably, some would argue, the best centre back in the world right now. You know, people slam, oh, why are we signing players from Everton? Why are we signing players from Crystal Palace? Why are we signing players from Wolves? Well, you look at John Stones. He came from Everton, arguably a fantastic centre back. Ruben Diaz came from the Portuguese league. He's City's second best centre back. Nathan Ake has been brilliant. He came from a relegated Bournemouth. You even look at players like Robertson. He came from Hull. Has been the best left back in the Premier League, arguably. You know, Salah and Alisson came from Roma. Van Dijk came from Southampton. Mane came from Southampton. Firmino came from Hoffenheim. Kevin De Bruyne came from Wolfsburg. Bernardo Silva came from Monaco. Rodri came from Athletic. Did Rodri come from Atletico Madrid, or did he come from Rodri former club? He came from that Spanish club, Villarreal, was it? No, it was Atletico Madrid. Rodri came from Atletico Madrid. You have to look at actually the big clubs and their signings and where they're at now. And it's not just about signing this big player from Bayern Munich and this big player from Real Madrid, because I see people saying, oh, Olise's Crystal Palace, Branthwaite's Everton, what are we doing? Well, that's what you want to do. You want to get 21-year-old players that are playing well in the Premier League already at mid-table clubs and develop them into superstars. Branthwaite's got characteristics to be a really good player. Olise's got characteristics to be a really good player. Neto's a phenomenal player. He's just a walking hospital. That's the approach that United needs to be making, and I like that transfer approach. I don't want United to be going for big wage stars that don't really want to come to United, but we're going to offer them the biggest paycheck, like Di Maria, Falcao, Alexis Sanchez, like we have in the past, that are nearing the end of their career. I'm fed up of us going for big wage stars that are nearing the end of their career. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. It causes problems. It causes inequality. It causes divide. It causes an imbalance in the wage bill. I want us to go for players that are aged 20 to 25 that are very good players that could become special players in the right environment that are going to fit Tenag's philosophy, the way we want to play with the right attitude. That's what I want at Manchester United, us to be signing the right kind of players as well. Obviously, there's a lot of risk with some of these signings, 100%. And as Alex has said Olise's class. I just see a risk with FFP having teeth could be dodgy coming off such injuries. The only worry about Olise is injuries. I do think, though, a lot of it is last season he didn't have those injury problems, and I think a lot of it is to do with poor management of Olise by Roy Hodgson. Guys, 77 likes and we're nearly at 300 people watching, so please do hit that like button. Let's see if we can get 150 likes by the end of the stream as well. Mount, Anthony, Harry Maguire, Paul Pogba, and more flop stop. And that's because they were players that we overspent on. Obviously, I think Mount, we can't call a flop yet. Anthony was a flop and we massively overspent. Paul Pogba was a flop, we massively overspent. And Maguire, if we signed him for 40 million, probably wouldn't have been a flop because he's not actually as bad as people make out. But yeah, I think we just overspent. What Vidic carried Ferdinand rubbish was the reason Ria looked so stylish was because Vidic was proper defending. 100%. I don't get this rubbish that goes around on the internet that this player carried that player. Like, I can't believe people are putting down Vidic on the internet. I can't believe you've got Gabby Abonlahor, who scored 1 goal against United in 20 games, saying that Vidic was an overrated average defender. Like, I can't get my head around it. Oh, yeah, Vidic was overrated. Oh, yeah, Vidic was average. You know, Rio carried him. I'm like, shit, I look at Gabby Abonlahor and I think, what on earth is he chatting? What on earth is he chatting? I can't get my head around a lot of the crap that goes on. Yeah, but it's such a risk to buy players coming off injuries with Mount and buy. And I agree. I love Olise, but it is a massive, massive risk as well. So yeah, let's continue on. We've got loads to get over as well. Someone said takeover. What do you mean by that? Elaborate, but let's get into the next few stories in regards to moves. So it was also said that Man United are looking to sign 2 young centre-backs this summer, and they're keeping an eye on players such as Antonio Silva, Todibo, Lenny Euro, and Jared Branthwaite. Realistically, I reckon you can get Todibo and Branthwaite, especially if Everton get relegated, for about 80 million combined, all 2 centre-backs. I think Lenny Euro is going to be 60 million. I think Antonio Silva is going to be 70 million. I think Antonio Silva and Lenny Euro have the highest ceiling. But are we in a position where we can spend 70, 80 million on one position? I think next year we'll be in a place where we can spend 70, 80 million on one player. But I think we're in a position now where we don't want to spend more than 60 million on any position, because I see it as we need a backup striker. So if something happens to Højlund, Rashford doesn't have to play striker. I think we need a winger, arguably 2 wingers, depending on if we can sell Anthony and Sancho. We need someone that can play as a number 6. And we need 2 centre-backs. The way I see it is we need 2 centre-backs, we need 2 midfielders, we need a winger, we need a striker, we need 6 positions to be covered. Let's say we raise 100 million in sales, we have a 250 million budget. So 6 divided by 25 divided by 6, just over 40 million pound per position is almost the way I see it. And you could argue maybe we're going to need cover at left back. I don't think Malacia will be out like he was the whole of last season this year, but maybe we'll need cover at left back. I think ideally a 6/8 hybrid. 2 centre-backs is probably what will happen. Striker, right winger, but we might need another winger. We might need a fullback. We might need a number 8 because Mount can't stay fit. Mount's becoming a walk-in hospital. There's so many things. So as much as I like Antonio Silva and Lenny Euro, and I think Antonio Silva and Lenny Euro will be better than Todibo and Branthwaite maybe, and their ceiling is higher and they're fantastic, we might be in a position where actually next summer is when we go and spend 80 million. You look at Arsenal when they rebuild, you know, Arsenal could win the league title this year, and they were quite smart. And I actually thought Arsenal's transfer business wasn't amazing at first, looking at it as from just a naive perspective. But they went and brought in Ramsdale. They went and brought in Odegaard. Then they got Jesus and Zinchenko. And Arsenal didn't spend big on any of those players. And then this year they went big on Declan Rice. They went probably a bit too big on Kai Havertz, but they went on, once they got to a position where they were in a title race, that's when they went and spent 70, 80 million on players. I think United need to be spending 30 to 60 million on players. And then when you get into the title race, when you're that one signing off, like let's say we're brilliant, but we're just that missing that right winger, or we're just missing that midfielder, then you go and spend 80 million on a player. That's what I think. I think we've got to be really smart. As much as I like Antonio Silva, Diamond, Lenny Euro, it's do we want to spend that much money on one position when I think there's 7 or 8 to really address this window as well. It's all about partnership anyway. Rio and Vidic complement each other so well. And yeah, we've got to look at that as well. But Sandro Martinez is our centre-back. Varane will leave. Maguire eventually will leave, and Lindelof set to go. We've got to find someone that's going to be a great partner for Martinez. Todibo's not great aerially. Would Branthwaite be better even though he's left-footed? Would Antonio Silva be better if he gets a bit more physical? Could it be Lenny Euro? There's lots of things as well. Alice, did you see what Haaland did to Branthwaite? This is the way I see it is every footballer's going to make mistakes. Every footballer's going to have a bad game. Branthwaite had a bad game, but he's 21 versus Haaland, the best that there is. Like, am I going to look at Branthwaite and 1 minute of him versus Haaland in the 84th minute, Man City Everton, or am I going to look at everything Branthwaite's done this season to make a decision about him? I've seen enough from Branthwaite this season to know he's a good centre-back. Yes, he got turned by Haaland, but Lisandro Martinez is a good centre-back, and he conceded 6 to Haaland. Haaland scored a hat-trick. Foden scored a hat-trick. Lisandro Martinez has conceded 7 to Liverpool, 6 to Man City. Lisandro Martinez and Varane are good centre-backs, but we've seen them concede 4 or 5 goals in a game. We've seen them been turned over. It happens. Just because Branthwaite's been turned over by Haaland doesn't make me think he's not good enough. I think, yeah, he's young, he's raw, and I don't think he's the best option out there, but I think he's a very, very good player. And I think the fact that Real Madrid and all these top players are looking at him says a lot as well. When we decide to sign players in the future, I hope they can ask themselves if they can profit off them. If we want to sell them, how many players can we make a profit off, excluding academy? True. And I think another thing as well, GBL, is that Omar Barada mentioned something at Manchester City is you've got 1 to 2 years to prove yourself. If not, you're out. Whereas at Man United, they give you 3-4 years. You overstay your welcome. Let's say we sign someone that's 22. We buy him 30 million from Borussia Dortmund. He's okay, but he's not brilliant. He's okay. And we say, look, well, we want to go up a level. You're not going to play much now. But because it's an okay player that might now be 24, we can maybe see if we can get 35, 40 million for him when we sell them on as well. There's not many players that United have brought that we can make a profit on. I mean, technically bought Garnacho, but he's academy. I mean, what players right now that United brought do you think we'd make a profit on? Should we actually look at that? I do want to look at the live chat. I do want to go through the live chat and go through some questions. And I've also got more transfer news to get into in terms of Olise and Neto. We will be getting into these stories on Olise and Neto in a second. But I actually want to go through that. Who in the Manchester United squad right now, if we sold, do you think we could make a profit on, or potentially make a profit on maybe in a year's time? Because right now, I don't think we'd make a profit on Onana, but I don't think we'd make much of a loss. Of course, they're advertising something. Oh, Stone Rose collection. Lindelof, well, he's got 1 year left on his contract. We're not going to make a profit on him. I mean, it'd be a miracle asking to make a profit on Maguire because we overspent. Martinez, I think we could make a profit on. I think if he could stay fit, we could easily get 60 million for this guy. Malacia, we spent about 10 million on. We could get, if Malacia and Martinez were fit, I think we could make a profit on those two. Varane, no, because he's aging. Delot, I think we signed for about 16, 17 million. We could make a profit on Delot. I think we could maybe make a profit on Luke Shaw, but he's getting to that age where we probably wouldn't. Wan-Bissaka, we won't make a profit on. Williams is on loan. Evans, we signed on a free, but he'll go for free. Amrabat, we haven't signed. Mount, we're never going to make a profit on. Bruno, we won't. Do you know what's mad is I think you could make a profit on Bruno if we sold him in the summer, just because of how good he is, but we won't. Ericsson, well, he signed on a free. We'll make a profit on him. Ahmad, we're not going to make a profit on that. Casemiro, not going to make a profit on that. Palistri, we signed for 3 million. We can make a profit on that. Donny, we're not going to make a profit on. These players are academies. Martial, we're not going to make a profit on. Højlund, I think we could make a profit on. I know we spent 64 million on him, but with the way, if he continues the way he's at, we could make a profit on him. Anthony, not a chance. Sancho, not a chance. Yeah, so potentially Højlund, potentially Palistri, Bruno, potentially Delot, Shaw, Malacia, and Martinez are the only players in that Man United squad that I think maybe, and I'm not saying we will, maybe we could make a profit on, which is quite mad actually. Whereas you look at Man City, they would probably make a profit on nearly every single one of those players as well. Alice, you see Madrid are interested in Højlund, Garnacho. I did cover that in my video earlier today. Højlund, nothing to worry about. I think he loves Man United. He chose us over PSG, even though they offered higher wages. I think he's in love with United. I don't think he'll leave us. Garnacho is one that I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon, but I think him being a Madrid fan, born in Madrid, from Spain, he could be tempted by Madrid in a few years if he continues on the right track and continues being a player that Real Madrid might look at, but I wouldn't be too worried as of now. We need a striker, right forward, a left back, and a progressive ball carrier in midfield and 2 centre backs. We need a 6 that's physical as well, that can cover a lot of ground in midfield as well as progressive ball carrier as well. Not far off 79k. Yeah, we're not far off 79k. What are we on? We're on 77,941 subs. So we are about 59 subscribers away from 78k. So please do subscribe down below if you're new. I do go live every evening around 6 p.m. UK time. I also do videos in the morning. So I sum up all the news in 10 minutes in the morning, just get right to the point. And then we do live streams where we get into the news that's come up through the day and discuss it and get into more detail. Tapsoba and Antonio Silva would be amazing centre-back signings. Yeah, two really good options. I'm not 100% sure if Tapsoba's the right fit for United, but he's great. Ideally, need a younger version of Varane next to Olise, tall, pacey, patient, and willing to play the last man. I think Diamond could be one, but we've not been linked to him really as well. Branthwaite has a high ceiling still. Eric Ten Hag can mould him for sure. I saw someone say the thing about Eric Ten Hag is he can turn good players into superstars. They're saying Eric Ten Hag can't turn bad players into good players, but he can turn good players into superstars. And I think if there's good players at Manchester United, Eric Ten Hag can get the most out of them. Look at Kobbie Mainoo, look at Garnacho, look at Højlund. I think Eric Ten Hag can get the most out of good players, but he can't get the most out of average players. And we've got a lot of average players at the club that he can't work with because the way he plays football has such high demands that if you don't have the ability to do this, you're not going to suit the way he plays football. And I thought, you know what, that sort of message and that kind of tweet did actually stand out to me a bit as well. Continuing on through the chat as well. If you're watching Sir Jim, you must find a role for Alice in the new regime. She's a drawer. Nobody talks more sense on things than United than Alice's wisdom. I appreciate that. I think a lot of people would disagree, but I do appreciate that as well. Bruno's around 30. We spent quite a bit on him initially. I think he was 50 million. I generally think we could get someone like Real Madrid would pay 70 million for Bruno right now. Well, they wouldn't. They've got Bellingham, but you know what I mean. I actually think we could get decent money for him, but maybe that's just me as well. We need a new team before worrying about any new stadium. I agree. Because new team starts performing, playing well. We need to get the team sorted before we really invest in the stadium, but we do need to invest in the stadium because it's falling down. It's a bit of both as well. Great news coming out United today. Exciting. Alvaro's situation's been poorly handled. Could have used him earlier in the season again now. Let's talk about left backs quickly. I mean, look, Luke Shaw's injured, but apparently it's a precaution and he should be okay to play against Luton. We should have just recalled Alvaro Fernandez. Malassia's been out all season. We should have recalled him. Brilliant on loan. Not this loan, but his last one. Great young player. Yes, we've got Harry Amas coming through, who probably will be even better than Alvaro. But, I mean, let's give him a chance. And if he wasn't good enough when he got the chance, we'll sell him. Imagine we brought in Alvaro, played a few games, was decent. We could maybe get 15, 20 million for him. We're now going to get 6 million for him. Chelsea might get 35 million for Lewis Hall. You know, look at how Man City sell their players that barely play. We should have, I think for me, with Luke Shaw's injury record and Malassi being out, we should have just recalled Alvaro Fernandez and let him hear it to the end of the season and let him play. Ten Hag was very eager to get rid of him. Ten Hag said, if you stay at United, I won't play you. And Alvaro left, and Ten Hag was quite strict on him. And maybe Ten Hag saw something that we didn't in him. I don't know. Ten Hag told Zidane Iqbal he can leave. Ten Hag told Charlie Savage he can leave. He's done the same with Alvaro. Maybe it's partly to do with Harry Amas. Maybe it's to do with Ten Hag thinking he's not got the capabilities to play in the Premier League. I'm not sure, but I think he deserved a chance to have a debut and play and prove him wrong. I think he with the options we have at left back, I would have given him a chance. Olise and Amai Ibrahimov development, that's much more important with the danger. Garnacho leaves as well. Yeah, I don't think Garnacho will leave anytime soon, but I do think Lacey and Amit Ibrahimov are those two very exciting players coming in on the wing as well. 116 likes, guys. Let's go for 115 likes. And Lacey will fit in for Nacho if he goes to Madrid. Potentially. Different kind of player, though. Garnacho's a bit more direct, but Lacey's a bit more technical. But I think Lacey, like Shea Lacey. When I was talking, like generally, if you don't believe me, I was talking about Kobbie Mainoo on this channel 2 years ago. Before Kobbie Mainoo and Garnacho had even been called up to first team training, I was talking about those two on this channel, saying that they are the two most talented players in the academy. Kobbie Mainoo and Garnacho. Shea Lacey, from the little bits I've watched of him, could be better. He could be the best in that academy. I'm convinced of it. To give it a year, that's the next name. Last year, Garnacho came through. This year, Mainoo comes through. Maybe next year, Lacey does come through. Maybe. Very young. He's been injured all season, but there's something about him. He's unbelievable. Did you talk about the Police performance versus Barcelona? Police, you got a goal and assist versus Barcelona. Had a very good game. I didn't watch the game, but I saw the highlights. I saw the clips. Very good assist. Very good goal. Police has been very good. It made me think if Sancho on loan right now went and got a goal and assist in a game, no one would shut up about it. When Mason Greenwood gets a goal and assist in a game, no one shuts up about it. It's quiet. I think that loan performance from Pelistri, goal and assist versus Barcelona, is better than any loan performance Sancho's put in. But everyone's trying to hype up that Sancho's been brilliant on loan at Dortmund. People are trying to hype up that Greenwood is amazing. I mean, where's the hype for Pelistri? You know, Fanbase FC. Yeah, Pelistri had a really, really good game as well. We need a substitute for Martinez ASAP. I agree. Bruno was almost 70 million quid if memory serves. Was he? I thought Bruno was 50 million quid. Bruno Fernandes. Right. I swear Bruno was 50 million quid. Bruno was 46 million pounds. with bonuses of up to 20. So if the bonus is reached, it goes up to 66 million. But it's initially 46 million. But I don't know what the bonuses were. I think that like 10. I think maybe in total we paid like 50 plus million. I think the bonuses were quite different as well. From what I know, that they're overpaid. From what I know, United overpay on transfers. Yeah, we do. Alice, do you think Erik ten Hag will be in next season, even if we make Champions League spot? I think if we make Champions League spot, we will be. And the reason I think Erik ten Hag might be given time is because there's so many problems at this club. There's so many problems for Ineos to deal with that actually restarting with a new manager then just creates a whole new problem in terms of rebuilding, in terms of players, ins and outs. I almost think, Todd Bowie gave Tuchel a bit of time, then sacked him like that, which probably wasn't the smartest because you just spent a load of money on Tuchel and then brought in another manager. But I think if it gets really bad between now and the end of the season, Ten Hag will go. But I think if we're just getting results, grinding out results, and Ten Hag showing what he can do when the full squad's back, which was only for 2 games, I think he might stay and be safe because Ineos might think, well, look, this club's got so many problems. We've got so much to deal with at this club. Ultimately, is it worth sacking the manager? Probably not, because it might just create more problems down the line. That's sort of my belief of what Ineos' stance could potentially be as well. Alice, do you have inside info that no one else is aware of regarding Dan Ashworth coming from Newcastle? No, I just got into what Alex Crook said earlier in my video. I do want to get into transfer news. I'm going to go through, I've got through a few live chats, but I'm going to get to transfer news as well. Let's hope Mark Hughes is the new manager of Liverpool. Yeah, if Steve Bruce or Mark Hughes wants to go to Liverpool, that would be absolutely amazing. We did talk about Dan Ashworth earlier here. Just scroll back like 10 minutes. We're talking about Dan Ashworth. But we are going to now talk about the Neto and Olise stories coming out. So what's been said on Neto and Olise? It said that United have discussed Olise and Pedro Neto as potential winger signings at the Mail. And then Alex Crook came out today and said on Olise that I think Manchester United will be working on this deal actively behind the scenes. Man City and Chelsea have also shown interest. So I think United want to get that done. Now, I'm going to tell you something on Olise. I'm going to tell you some interesting info on Olise. And that is that Olise would reject Man City and reject Chelsea for Manchester United. Olise is a massive Man United fan. When he scored an amazing goal against us in the last minute, he didn't celebrate. When he scored an equaliser versus Man City, he went mental. Olise's dream is to play for Manchester United. Olise loves Manchester United. He's a Man United fan. So I do think that gives puts Man United in quite a good position in terms of if they want Olise. The injury concerns is a worry. But we know that there's a race for Olise. A lot of people want him because he's a great talent. And apparently, reportedly, his focus would be Manchester United. He dreams of coming to Manchester United. He's a big fan of that as well, which is great as well. Paul Ince, new Liverpool manager. I mean, wasn't he a bit questionable already? That'd be quite funny. So, yeah, I think Neto and Olise are great options. Tell me in the chat, Neto or Olise. Both got injury problems. I think Olise is probably better in terms of what we need. See, Neto's more of a traditional United winger. I think of direct. I love Neto's directness. But I think in terms of service for Højlund, Olise might be better. I think in an ideal world, get both. Olise 50 million. Neto, someone said he was 40 million, but I don't know if that's true. 90 million on Neto and Olise. Then you've got Rashford and Garnacho. They're your 4 wing options. Get out Anthony. Get out Sancho. Get a load of money for Greenwood. That's pure FFP profit. Invest all that money, bosh, in sorting out the midfield, sorting out the defence. Backup striker for Højlund. Bish, bash, bosh. Sounds good. It's good. Too good to be true. But I think Neto and Olise, I mean, I think we need 2 wingers. Obviously, we've got Ahmad, we've got Olise, but I don't know what Ten Hag will do with them. I did see someone tweet something, it might have been Goldbridge, about actually saying that they believe Ahmad will get minutes because, it took a while for Kobbie Mainoo to come in, it took a while for Garnacho to come in, but ultimately when they came in, they did get minutes, and maybe Ten Hag wants to mould them in and has a plan and doesn't want to rush Ahmad back. There's a reason he didn't go out on loan as well. I still think Ahmad has got something to show this season. He just doesn't want to rush him back from injury as well. Jim only buying 25%, then improving the club and increasing its worth when he couldn't afford 5.2 billion makes me feel that it's only investment for Jim. That's why I said take over. Interesting. I mean, I think it's more that the Glazers didn't want to sell and they were just really trying everything to get minority stakes so they could stay at the club longer and leech more money out of the club. I think it's more the 25% of Ratcliffe, more to do with Glazer greed, and Ratcliffe's just desperate to buy the club because he's probably got 10 years left and not in a mean way. And Ratcliffe bent over backwards to do anything to buy the club, and he's given the Glazers what they want because deep down, I think the Glazers always wanted a minority investment, always wanted to stay, and just wanted someone to fix the club and spend the money that needs to be spent so they could make even more money. That's what I think it is. Lots of interesting Neto, Olise. Who would you pick between Olise and Neto? I mean, depends on injuries really, but I think I'd probably narrow it Olise, but I mean, I think they're both brilliant. I think Olise, yeah, if it wasn't for injuries, 100% Olise. I feel like Neto, Bruno, Delo would be good vibes. The Portuguese trio as well. I mean, I'd go for both as well. I mean, that'd be mad as well. Neto swap for Anthony. David, do you think Wolves are that stupid? I mean, look, if Wolves said, you know what, we'll give you Neto if you give us Anthony, because Anthony can speak Portuguese and this is what we do at Wolves, amazing. But never going to happen. Never going to happen. Anthony lacks game intelligence. He does. I still think Anthony's better than what he's showing at United. I still think Anthony has stuff to offer at Manchester United. And because of Ten Hag having to adapt the way he wants to play because of injuries and stuff, we've not got the best out of Anthony. And he wasn't good last season, but it was okay last season. But ultimately from Anthony, we've not seen enough. I've not seen enough from Anthony to say, yeah. So, yeah, I would sell Anthony for Neto if we could. But don't think we've got much chance of that happening. United to waste money and give our assets away for nothing drives me crazy. That's what United like to do. Nothing changes as long as the Glazers stay. Well, apparently they've got no power, which would be good as well. Funds only go so far with FFP. Not sure if we make multiple signings at any one position, aside from maybe centre-backs, says Alex. Yeah, I mean, look, the transfer window, we can only dream. We can only say, oh, I want United to do this, I want United to do that. But at the end of the day, with the transfer window, we can only dream. We can only hope. There's so many issues with FFP. It depends on selling as well. Anthony was good in ball creating. Anthony was good in terms of link up at Ajax. Anthony was a good player at Ajax that's come to United and been atrocious. I think some of it is to do with the system. I think some of it is to do with confidence. And I think some of it is to do with Anthony not being good enough. I think it's a mixture of things. Madrid are looking at Rasmus Højlund. They think they can get him. What idiots. I mean, look, there's no way Rasmus Højlund's leaving United for Madrid after one season. I'm 100% sure of it. Like, I think Garnacho, if anyone's going to leave for Madrid, Garnacho would be the one I'm more worried about as well. Listen, people, please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. Share the video and all of that. We've got lots more info to dive into. So that was the Neto Olise news. And in terms of exits, here was two stories going about. It was said that Barcelona and Atletico Madrid have been watching Mason Greenwood in person for Getafe this season. It is likely that a club will make an offer for him this summer, and Manchester United do not plan for Greenwood to return, says Alex Crook. I got insight on Greenwood not that long ago to say that Ineos haven't even discussed Greenwood or made a decision on him yet. So I do think any news that's saying Greenwood won't come back or Greenwood will come back isn't particularly believable, because I think nobody knows what the plan is for Greenwood. Ultimately, Ineos will make a decision on whether they want to bring Greenwood back or not at the end of the season. They've not discussed that. They've got to bring in the director of football. They've got bigger things to sort. I think because of FFP, it will be pure profit, because it's a risk bringing him back, not only with the public response, but how will he do in the Premier League? Will he still be good? I think they will probably sell him because it's pure profit in regards to FFP. There's players that will be uncomfortable about it. There's fans will be uncomfortable about it. I don't think they'll want to risk any sort of, drama off the pitch or anything like that. I think he will be sold, but they haven't made a decision. They might bring him back because they might say, well, Sancho's crap, Anthony's crap. We need a right winger. We can't get this person. We haven't got the money for this person. Let's bring Greenwood back. You don't know what they're going to do. And it also might depend on if the manager wants him. I know Ten Hag did want him back. So that we'll have to see as well. In regards to other transfer stories and news coming about, it was also said that Wan-Bissaka could be included in a potential Michael Olise to United deal. It feels like Wan-Bissaka is probably going to go. I'm not too fussed about it. I like Wan-Bissaka, but if Ten Hag has an eye on a right back and he can get decent money for Wan-Bissaka, I'm not going to say no. But it depends, because I think I'm happy with our right back options going into next season. I think we've got bigger issues like centre back, midfield and right wing to look at before we even think about right back. But potentially if Wan-Bissaka gets the Olise price down, 35 million and Wan-Bissaka for Olise, that could be some smart business as well. Delo has been playing really well, so Wan-Bissaka might want to leave because he is sort of establishing himself as the second choice. Wan-Bissaka's good in those big games, 1v1. But Delo has established himself as a very important player in the terms of 1v1 as well. Ten Hag should adopt another role for Anthony. He is more than what we're getting out of him at the moment. Deploy him in other positions. Right wing isn't working. You know what? I actually agree. I'd like to see him at left wing. I think maybe that would simplify his game, and because he's so one-footed, at least he can put crosses in that way. that is one of the things I see. Going into the final story, and this was a little bit of insight onto Ten Hag's future, and Alex Crook said this on the MUFC MPB YouTube channel, but he said that I'd label Erik ten Hag as being on trial until the end of the season, effectively. He started that trial period quite well. I think if they can get a Champions League place and maybe even win the FA Cup, Ten Hag will be in a good position to stay, but new owners like to make up their own stamp, so I wouldn't say he's on particularly stable ground. I think Ten Hag is on trial. It can massively depend what happens between now and the end of the season. I personally think he might be given a little bit more time just because there's so many problems to deal with. But yeah, it might just depend on what he does between now and the end of the season because new owners like to change things. Omar Barada is a big fan of De Zerbi, but we have to wait and see. I also think what happens on Ten Hag's future might depend on what managers are available. If there's not a manager that they want available, they might keep Ten Hag for another year. They might say, you know what, let's give Ten Hag a third season. Talking back to the Vidic thing, most critics are not United supporters or young people who don't know enough about United. As for Keane and Vidic, brilliant. Yeah, Keane and Vidic were unbelievable players. We wouldn't have won what we won without Keane and Vidic. So I don't get why you get people like Gabby Abonlahor or FIFA kids criticising them. You know, I was very young for Keane. I remember Vidic a lot. I remember watching Paul Scholes and generally to this day, there was no player as a young kid that I thought was as good as Paul Scholes. Like, when I didn't know anything about stats or any of that shit, and I just watched football as literally like 7-year-old, I just thought Paul Scholes was just different class. And I don't get how he gets stick. Paul Scholes got voted most overrated Premier League player on some poll. It's ridiculous how much hate ex-United players get. There was, you know, they won what they won for a reason because they were good. If Maguire continues this consistency, our defence will be solid and important for us. Yeah, Maguire's playing really well. It'll be difficult to sell because of his wages and he doesn't want to lower them. So if we sell Lindelof and Maguire keeps up his consistency, that'll be positive as well. But listen, people, I'm going to wrap up today's live stream. We've been live 40 minutes. We try and keep our lives 40 to 50 minutes long, but this was a really good live stream with some really good discussions. I will be back live tomorrow. I will be back with some more info tomorrow. There'll be a video tomorrow as well. So please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video. We'll be back tomorrow. Any breaking news, we'll even be back tonight. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.